Hello, and welcome to our new learning quest, Low Poly World. And this will be Mission 1, the Geometry of Terrains. In this learning quest, we are going to be learning a variety of more advanced modeling techniques so that your models are more sophisticated and they're stretched out to different types of shapes that we haven't seen yet. So we are going to be working with planes today as a mesh, and in the middle of our screen we have a cube. We are going to delete that cube because we're not going to use it. So I'm going to go to click on the cube and press delete on my keyboard. But instead of a cube, we're going to substitute that cube with a plane. So we're going to go to the Add menu, go to Mesh, and select Plane. And I'm going to enlarge this plane or scale it. So I'm going to press the Scale button, and I'm going to select the outer circle, the outer white circle, and stretch that one out to a size that's big enough so that we see on the screen. Okay, don't unselect the object just yet. Okay, what you'll need to do is we are going to go to another mode. In the first learning quest, we were in the object mode. Now we're going to be editing the object. Okay, so we're going to click on the object mode and switch to another mode called edit mode. Okay, and while the object is selected, I am going to right click on the object and press subdivide. And as you see here, it subdivides this plane into 4 different squares. But we can put more squares if we want to, and we'll define what the squares are. On the bottom here, there is a sub menu that says subdivide. Let's open that one up, and we are given a number of options. Right here it says the number of cuts as 1. Well, if I increase the number of cuts, I have more squares, and then it exponentially increases and increases more, and we have now more squares within this plane. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to define what those terminologies are. Okay, and so let me zoom up a bit so that we see this plane from a certain angle. Okay, and so let's go over a couple terminologies. Now that we're in edit mode, we have access to a whole variety of tools that we are going to be learning in this learning quest. But in order for us to learn those tools, we need to learn a number of terminologies that we use in geometry. The first terminology that we're going to learn is what we call a point. And a point is, or a vertices. A vertices is a point on a 3-dimensional mesh. So if I select a point right here, or vertex selection, each of these dots are points. What can you do with these points? You can modify those points as you may like. You can translate it. If I move the points, you can translate the points. Because the point is only singular, you cannot scale it. Okay, you can only scale objects, or you can only scale geometries only if there's more than one point, and we'll go into that later on. We can, though, we cannot rotate a point and make some influences around the geometries, because in order for us to make an influence on the geometry, such as this pyramid, we need to have more than one point. But the really cool part is we can move it and make terrains. You can select more than one point by clicking on one point, pressing Shift on your keyboard, and selecting another point and another point, and now we have 3 points selected, and now we can translate all of those points. And because we're selecting all of those points, we can now rotate, we can now scale. So I just lost my points. Let me try that one again. We can now scale. Okay, this goes into our next type of geometry, and that is what you call an edge. An edge is a geometry where you have 2 points connected to each other, forming a line segment, like this one. This line is an edge, and with this edge, you can do a variety of transformations, such as moving it or translating it. We can translate the edge, we can rotate the edge in a certain angle, and we can scale the edge as well. Very similar to selecting more than one point. But selecting an edge is more efficient than selecting more than one point. The final mode that we'll be looking at is what we call a face. Let me rotate this one a bit. And a face is a type of geometry where we have 3 or more vertex that surrounds each other and is connected to each other, such as this square. So if I select a face here, this whole face is selected. That face is selected. As you see, there's 4 points here, or 4 vertices. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Same thing with this. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Alright, so very similar with a face, you can move it or translate it and make interesting terrains with these. You can rotate it. You can scale it. Alright, so the purpose of this mission is called, the title of this mission is called The Geometry of Terrains. And what you are going to be doing is you're going to be creating an interesting terrain. And the terrain is a landform like the terrain of Mars. You have mountains and hills and bumpy roads and so forth. Okay, so this is what you are going to do. On your desktop, you are going to create a new folder. So I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this Mission 1, the Geometry of Terrains. I'm going to open that folder up, and I am going to press New and insert a folder. And I'm going to call this Texture. Okay, because on Google, we're going to find an image of a terrain. So I'm going to type in terrain and material or texture, and press images and see what type of materials we can find. And there's other ones for you to select, so let me just explore a bit. Okay, there you go. Let's download that one. I'm gonna save an image copy of that one and place that one in my folder. My Mission 1 folder and textures. Press open. And I'm gonna download it. And make sure you name it. I'm gonna call it Rocky Terrain. .jpg. Okay, So I'm going to make a new Blender file first. I'm not going to save this one. I'm going to do the same exact thing. Press Add. Go to your mesh. Select the plane. And scale it. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to subdivide it. And while it's selected, let's go and change our mode from object mode to edit mode. And we are going to right click on the terrain and we are going to subdivide. It subdivides into 4 different faces, but we're going to increase the number of cuts or the number of faces. We can drag it out and now we have more faces here. I don't recommend, actually the maximum faces that you can go up to is 10, okay, which is good because any more than 10 means you are going to be slowing down the computer as it takes a lot of processing power for your computer to keep track of all these vertices and faces and edges. Another thing that we can do in this mode is we can explore the smoothness. Let's see what that does. Not that much, but we can experiment with fractals. And fractals allows us to bend these faces and edges and vertices into different angles. We can do random seed, which gives us a randomized terrain as well. And from that point on, we can make modifications to this terrain by selecting one of these modes, whether it be a vertex mode or vertex select, selecting one of these vertices right here or more, and modifying it to our liking. Or selecting our a face, an edge. Make sure you press Shift if you want to select more than one edge, and modifying it there. Or selecting a face, or more than one face by pressing Shift on your keyboard and holding it down and selecting more than one face and modifying it to your liking. Realize that this whole thing is one object. Okay? So what we're going to do now is we are going to place a texture on. Let's split up the screen. Let's convert this view right here into shader editor. And make sure let's go back to object mode, okay, while the plane is selected. And now we are going to press new, delete principal BSDF. This was all I think in mission number 4 in the last learning quest. Press the add textures, image textures. Let's connect the color to the surface and let's press open and let's find that texture that we saved in our textures folder. I'll go to my desktop, mission 1, geometries and terrains, textures, and I saved that rocky terrain. Okay, and let's check it out and see what it looks like. Let's press viewport shading and we have ourselves an interesting terrain right there. Let's go into render mode. Not much changes, but this gives us a preview of what the power of the geometries of terrains does by modifying your vertices, your edges, and your faces. And that is how you do mission number 1, the geometry of terrains.